Heads up, this video is for the grown folk only. Monkey thongs. Monkey thongs. Hello and welcome to Sage the Bad Naturalist. I'm Sage the Bad Naturalist, and this is our first heavy episode, a very special episode. That's why I'm seated, not because my spine hurts. Chimpanzees in Zambia. Yeah, sorry, this video is actually about chimpanzees. It's not about monkeys at all. They're not the same. I just thought that thumbnail was really funny. Accuracy be damned. Okay. Chimpanzees in Zambia have been observed exhibiting a very interesting behavior. They've been spotted putting decorative string between their butt for no discernible utilitarian purpose other than they felt like it and it was fun. Ladies and germs, they have invented accessories. I have a picture. I promise I will show you, but I gotta wait till the end of the explanation, and when you see it, you will understand why. In the published, yes, published, journal article titled, Chimpanzees socially learn non-instrumental behavior from conspecifics, this big old team of researchers documented 2 separate instances of chimpanzee grass-based fashion fad. The first wave takes place in 2010, when I was wearing these polyester crimes against humanity, which are different than how I'm dressed right now. Please shut up. One trailblazing chimpanzee had an idea. Her name was Julie, and she was about to define the look of an era. She put a long, thin piece of grass in her ear, more than once, on separate days, for no reason. Then other members of her group saw that, tried it themselves, thought, well dang, that's kind of dope, and started doing it themselves. This is not a thing chimpanzees had ever been observed doing before. It wasn't to like scratch an itch in their ear. It wasn't like a display behavior. No one's ever seen them do this. They just started doing it and then it took off. When I read this, I assumed they put the grass like behind their ear like this, like, oh dang, they got a James Dean chimp. But no. In their ear, like put it in and then it stayed there. Not gonna lie, it goes kind of hard. At first, in 2023, a few chimps brought back grass in ear behavior. And that was it. They were just repeating it. Complete refresh, same group. But then just 2 weeks later, an icon emerged. Gemma, female chimpanzee again, interesting. Saw it and thought, that's cute. But I'm gonna put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. And this is where I have to tell you, I lied. Again, I'm sorry, but I had to, otherwise the video would get flagged. Because the grass, oh my God, the grass did not go between the cheeks like a thong. We actually still hold the record for that invention. No. It was like the ear. It went in the butt. Up in there, far enough to not fall out when they walked around. It was GIRB. Here's the picture. Science ain't always glamorous, I don't know what to tell ya. Chimpanzees have, according to published science, just invented the decorative butt plug. And speaking of things that go where the sun don't shine, this video is brought to you by sex toys. Calling all shoppers, free toys and gift cards from Bellessa. Attention all shoppers, exciting new products from Bellessa. Whether you've got an innie, an outie, or that secret third place we've all got, Bellessa has something for you. The Air Vibe is waterproof, rechargeable, and mighty quiet. What's that? I'm being dialed on the Air Vibe? Oh, it's just a good time calling. Make way for the Key Vibe. This one's a bit of a secret, if you understand. This one you tuck away. It's great for couples. Look at that, how cheeky. The controller looks just like a car key. Third up, we have the Ultra Blow. While I have no immediate use for this in my life as I am a lesbian, the Ultra Blow is high-tech, uses multiple motions at once, and has up to 8 settings of both rotation and up and down. And finally, the crown jewel of this ensemble, the Rose. She's the party favorite, 10 different modes, but no stupid patterns. It fits so snugly in the palm of your hand and gives you complete control. It's a viral TikTok sensation. My good pals at Bellessa are giving away free vibrators or gift cards to absolutely everyone who signs up for the giveaway in the description below. Some important context, I hope this doesn't spoil how fun it is. Chimpanzees recognize butts the same way we recognize faces, so And it kind of makes sense that that's where they'd put the accessories. That's all there is to these two research papers. Which might have you wondering, why is there all this runtime left? This has all been a ruse to tell you a variety of simian shenanigans. I gotcha. Nests. Chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas all build nests. Unlike, say, a bird's nest, which might be in continual use on the order of weeks or months by the same family unit, most great apes build their nest every single night. Sometimes they even build like a little simple one for an afternoon nap. Western lowland gorillas build ground nests. And before you look at this and think, what the hell is the point of putting a nest on the ground? What do you think your bed is? Cousins? Chimpanzees frighten me, and as far as I'm concerned, that is the appropriate reaction to this animal. I mean, just look in their eyes. It's like an uncanny valley situation, like so alike and yet different. A point of clarity, as this is a common misconception, we are not direct descendants of chimpanzees. This is not your great times 10 to the 10th grandpappy. If you rewind the VHS tape of human evolution, the opening scene is not this. This is the living critter with which we have the closest common ancestor. A common ancestor from which one cohort went on to gradually morph and coalesce around characteristics to become what we today call chimpanzees, and another went off to become us. And they're not our closest relative overall either. That would go to the collection of homos that we shared the earth with for tens of thousands of years, like Neanderthals and Denisovans. Even if you somehow supercharged chimp brains, like if Mojo Jojo's plan of the Powerpuff Girls movie worked, they would not be exactly like humans in intelligence and behavior and speech and all that. They wouldn't be like humans but for in a big monkey suit. No, they would be non-human primates with supercharged brains. Harrying the Hendersons is just not a plausible outcome, I'm sorry. Illness! It should not be surprising, at least in the case of chimpanzees, that given our immune systems are so similar, that we would be susceptible to the same illnesses. Specifically, polio. It paralyzes chimpanzees exactly as it does humans, and it's really sad. And generally, they don't even die directly of the virus. They die of not being able to get enough calories from foraging or not being able to defend themselves. And thank God we modern humans don't have to worry about this because we have and readily accept the inoculation for polio, am I right? Famously, bloodborne illnesses can transfer between great apes, non-human primates, and us. To abbreviate an extremely long and complex scientific and social history, and to squash a twice wicked rumor which defames rural people in Central Africa and also queer people the world around, there are several forms of and points of transmission for the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, the one that became a rapid global pandemic in the late 1970s and early 1980s, likely originated in chimpanzees or the western lowland gorilla somewhere in Central Africa, and it transferred to humans through blood contact. It was not sexually transmitted from chimp to human. That is a baseless and cruel, bigoted claim. In times of food scarcity, some rural people in Central Africa will go and hunt what is generally called bushmeat, apes and monkeys. And before you turn up your nose at that, remember that in America during the Depression when there was food scarcity, lots of people went out and hunted what is North America's bushmeat: squirrels, raccoons, possums. The general consensus is that while out hunting bushmeat, someone had an injury, the kind you might get from going hunting, an open wound, and that in the process of hunting or processing the meat in order to be, separated and cooked, there was a transference of blood from an infected animal to a human. Somehow, their blood got into a person with an open wound. This happened several times. There are a handful of slightly different forms of HIV which all exist and are endemic in different great ape species. And it is generally believed that to have crossed over in separate instances, different times that this happened with different humans and different primate populations. HIV did not emerge from one single evil patient zero. Speech and intelligence. Koko, Kanzi, and Nim Chimpsky. Yeah, okay, all right, just in case that last section wasn't enough of a bummer for you, this one will do it. I'm really sorry if this makes you sad, but if you've seen the video, weapons grade ooftonium, yeah, you know it's coming. Remember the thongs from the beginning. I promise to get us back to that energy before the ride is over. Great apes communicate, without question. They do this, they do this, they do this, for heaven's sake. Not only that, chimpanzees can evidently coordinate very complex ideas and plan ahead, given that they successfully do war. Great apes are not a collective intelligence the way that, ants in a colony or bees are. They are not individual, solitary, clever critters like octopuses. They are, like us, small group, highly social, collaborative intelligence. However, just because we're alike in that way does not mean that their methods of communication would be at all like ours. I've said it once, I'll say it twice. We are not them. They are not us. Again, if you use the remote from Click and point it at a chimp and fast forward 6 million years, it will not turn into me. And likewise, observing chimps today is not peering into humanity's past. However, the temptation to anthropomorphize, I don't know, it's kind of too great. I mean, primatology is a relatively new field to start with, and we're kind of still developing methods. I mean, Jane Goodall basically invented primatology, the serious scientific study of great apes, and that was like 50 years ago. And how could you not be tempted to anthropomorphize? Look at this! We're clearly kin! But to state what, ought to be obvious, given that they are different animals with different body plans, they have developed methods and ways of communication, information sharing, socializing that work for them, their needs, their body plans. Great apes do hand touching like we do, like they effectively say, slide me some skin, that's pretty cool. None of the great apes have a body plan that is conducive to, fine, minute manipulation of their vocal cords, i.e. talking. Nor do they communicate with human-like messages using their hands, because shocker, they're different than ours. Where in our evolutionary branch, we traded off hand strength for greater hand dexterity and manipulation, insert D&D quip here, they decided strength is good, gonna stick with strength. So preface for this next part, I don't know jack about taking care of animals of any kind. In adulthood, my only pet is the one I have right now, and she is a single-celled amoeba whom I've had in a state of dormancy for 9 months because I couldn't handle the responsibility of taking care of her. So with all that said, I got nowhere to speak from, I got no knowledge base to speak on. With all that being said, I will not be commenting on animal care anywhere in this. Not saying you shouldn't, I'm just saying I'm not gonna. Okay, here we go. It's time to get down with the sadness. In 1973, Nim Chimpsky, yes, that's a pun on Noam Chomsky, they're very clever, became the study subject of a lot of people and also sometimes no one. It's complicated, it's a big mess. But mostly Herbert S. Terrace. The chief goal was to figure out, can you teach a chimp sign language? Not a lot of scientific rigor going on, but there was a lot of documentation. There's certainly something to be learned from this. The complete story of Nim's life is very complicated and frankly kind of distressing. I will include in the further learning playlist below a couple of documentaries you might find interesting. The head researchers taught Nim a handful of signs in American Sign Language, each mapped to a single word or concept. They did not teach Nim to form more complex or compound ideas. Maybe because it was beyond Nim specifically, maybe because it is beyond chimpanzees at large, and maybe it's because the researchers themselves didn't know ASL. Not only that, they were not fluent in the language they were trying to teach to a great ape to then use as a case study to make sweeping conclusions. Again, it was a bit of a moving target what the hell they were trying to do, but it was, at points, at least these two. How does language acquisition work? Like in toddlers and babies, because they had Nim since he was an infant. They raised him like a kid, that's odd. But it was kind of cute, look, they put him in outfits. Probably not good, but again, I don't know. And also, to understand the capacity of primates, of chimpanzees in particular, their capacity to acquire language, human language. How much can they learn? Now, I'll forgive you for not knowing this because you're not attempting to teach a language to an ape, but ASL is its own thing. It's got a different grammatical structure. It is not a one-to-one map with English. And these homos were trying to do these incredibly big goals by just fucking winging it. More than 50 people were teaching, caring for, tending to Nim at different points in his life. These were researchers, students, veterinarians, volunteers, things like that. And over the years, a few people who entered and exited the study as volunteers were deaf and fluent in sign language. These volunteers were significantly less impressed by Nim. To provide an illustration of this shortcoming, of the big flaw in the human researchers not being fluent in sign, the thing they were trying to teach to an ape, I've invited my friend, Mixxie. Mixxie is a certified ASL translator and also uses ASL day to day, because he's deaf. Could you please provide a sentence that illustrates the difference between English and ASL grammar?
Yeah, so ASL and English have very different grammatical structures. ASL has expansive body language and uses facial expressions to convey grammar. The word order is also a lot more flexible, whereas in English, the word order in sentences is very strict. It tends to follow a structure like topic, verb, adjective, very basic.
Word by word, this sentence does not make sense. If you were to one-to-one translate with English, it doesn't sound exactly right. And that's because ASL is not sign for sign code for English, it's its own language.
I'll show you an example of the same sentence in English versus ASL. So, I want that apple. I can just sign that apple, really condense it in sign, versus in English, you have to say, I want that apple in that exact order. In ASL, messages can be conveyed more efficiently and with more variety in sentence structure and how one expresses something. ASL in general is a lot more expressive than English. Mind blown, right?
A real brain breaker. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the dorks at home?
We'll see. I hope one day in the future, everyone learns sign language.
Thank you, Mixxie.
Thank you.
I'll see you later. That was so good, one take! I'm sure you get it already, but just to really drive the point home. The reasoning trap the researchers fell into with Project Nim is one, as far as I can tell, all the researchers fell into with all the various single subject primates when it comes to language. Intuition. Sometimes interpolating, sometimes extrapolating, but always finding meaning where maybe there wasn't any. And to be clear, this is a totally natural, normal thing to do. Like, look at them, look at their eyes, they feel familiar, and they have a lot of social cues and ability to communicate non-verbally in the same way that we do. Primates, especially chimpanzees and bonobos, pick up on human mannerisms and understand what we mean with our body language. So a lot of the time it's unclear whether or not these subjects truly understand what is being asked of them and are deliberately, consciously choosing, like they have a sense of choice that they could deny the request, for example, or if they're doing what the researcher is asking because they understand the researcher wants something. That seems like a distinction without a difference, but it's the difference between handing over something because you're habituated to and because you meant to. Think about how freaky it feels when you're learning a new language and you come across a sentence construction or a way of speaking or a form of grammar that would be inconceivable in your mother tongue. Take, for example, in Russian, they don't have the verb to be in the present tense. Just not at all. Not like slang or casual, like there is no present tense form of to be. The sentence, hello, I'm Sage, I'm an artist from America, would be translated as Здравствуйте, меня зовут Sage, я художник в Америке. Just let me have this. I took 2 semesters of Russian and never did anything with it. Word by word, literally, that sentence is, hello, they call me Sage, I artist of America. I artist, there's no am. It's so self-evident in every situation in which you would need to say, I am, he is, we are, that they don't. They have no utility for it because it's obvious. So do you think Russian speakers literally cannot conceive of to be in the present tense because they don't utilize it? Because they don't express it? Do you think that they can't comprehend to be in the present tense? No, that's idiotic. The grammatical pattern exists because that's the one that gradually developed over time and it works. Let that thought percolate in the background. Koko the gorilla! Yeah, this is theater. I'm sorry, I'm really if you have warm fuzzies about Koko the gorilla, you can keep your warm fuzzies about Koko the gorilla. Really. No, Koko is not bad. Penny Patterson is not, well, I don't know about that part. I don't know anything about her. But you can still like Koko. It's okay. But Koko ain't say all this. Come on. Basically, all the complex translations of Koko were willful extensions, exaggerations of the signs she was using, making meaning again where maybe there wasn't any. Her researcher and handler, Penny Patterson, fell into the same pitfalls as the researchers with Nim and basically all of these, that they seem so close to communicating something akin to what we would. Just kind of fill in the gap. And Koko was undoubtedly perceptive and clever and interesting. She had a personality, she had hobbies, she had opinions. Like, this is a rich mind at work. What a fascinating animal. To this day, if I see that clip of Koko the gorilla and Mr. Rogers, I will cry. But I don't know that Koko had this kind of thought. Neither does Penny Patterson, neither does anyone. Modified American Sign Language was not the window through which to peer into it. Also, teaching great apes American Sign Language to figure out what they think is a little bit like monkey scientists having us swing from tree to tree with our toes to figure out how athletic we are. And if you buy into the premise that humans are the smarty pants to ever walk the planet, and that apes are less smart than us, why did we ask the apes to learn our way of communicating instead of us learning to speak ape? Kanzi the bonobo of Iowa? Kanzi was the only bonobo to be the major subject of a multi-year-long linguistic study like this. And Kanzi's case is very interesting because it's better. So they didn't teach Kanzi sign, they didn't try to teach him to vocalize, they taught him with lexicograms. So a lexigram is a little doodle that corresponds to a word or an idea, but not literally. So the doodle for apple will not be a picture of an apple, it will just be something arbitrary. Kanzi effectively learned upwards of 3,000 lexicograms. Like, any person could say out loud in English a word, and Kanzi had somewhere in the database, you know, a lexigram for it. He could pretty reliably, like more than half the time, pick the right one. Out of 3,000? That's pretty good. Seems like he knew what word went to which picture. Incredible. Whoa, I think we're actually getting somewhere. Who's to say how much of this was unique to Kanzi the bonobo specifically? Like, I don't know, maybe he was like a super genius bonobo, and how much is true of bonobos in general? I don't know, they'd have to keep doing it. Did I mention all these apes are dead? Yeah, I wouldn't defame a living animal, come on. So if you've heard of Kanzi, there's a good chance it was somewhat recently. You see, the Ape Cognition and Conservation Institute in, again, Iowa of all places, it's a whole thing. Look, none of these primates are supposed to be in this continent at all. We gotta keep it moving. The Institute invited some YouTubers to make videos about the bonobos and Kanzi in particular. Cool. In these videos, okay, so in one of them, a YouTuber taught Kanzi to play Minecraft. In another, the host did a smattering of intelligence tests with Kanzi. And in yet another, the host ate a banana and made monkey noises. I'm going to stick to that first one lest I have a brain aneurysm on camera. The infotainment value of videos like these does to me seem predicated on the audience not knowing the following, which is that it's a pretty well documented phenomenon that chimps, bonobos, and gorillas have near photographic short-term memory. You can't do that. That's amazing. Or is it? I think it's only amazing because we can't do that. We don't have that kind of rapid response short-term memory. But if you imagine a life, you know, perhaps an arboreal one, in which that skill would be useful, it'd be as ordinary as how well we can hear, how well we can see. So given that apes can do this, it's maybe a little bit less impressive that they do this. Not impressive, but kind of worthy context, because, you know, by default, we as viewers just assume that they're dumb and don't know anything, so we're kind of delighted and surprised when they can do anything at all. I hope all this puts Kanzi's big iPad into perspective. I leave the critical thinking as an exercise to the viewer. And truly no shade whatsoever to these tubers at all. Like, if I got an invite to go meet a bonobo, you better bet your grass-wedged ass I would take it. Making a highly modified version of Minecraft that is playable by a big ape. It's admittedly fucking hilarious. It's cool and it's funny. And also intriguing, as evidenced by how many people have watched it. You know, videos like this, they're what I do. They're pop site infotainment, sometimes bordering on pulp. I don't mean to say that that's not good, that that's not useful, that that's not its own form of educational, but it's sort of the junk food of learning. So, what exactly is in our nature anyway? Chimpanzees sometimes exhibit behaviors we find abhorrent, even just to observe in them, let alone when humans do it. They can be selfish, extremely violent, seemingly motivated violence, like with the intention to make others suffer, not just self or group defense. And there is a general perception that they are where we get it from, that because we are so genetically similar to them, that we have the same common ancestor, that violence is simply a part of us, that we can never escape from it, that we are inherently cruel, selfish, self-motivated, violent animals. However, that consensus is pretty undermined by the existence of bonobos. They are also our closest living relative. We are exactly as related to chimpanzees as we are bonobos. Bonobos are matriarchal, non-violent, and love very freely. On that last point, they do it so often and so casually that researchers nickname it the bonobo handshake. So where's the wild extrapolation there, huh? How come we're not making sweeping conclusions about the nature of man and humanity based on bonobos? Where's my broad-based conclusion that humans are destined to be lady-led horny pacifists? Chimpanzees are better studied, better documented, and therefore better understood and subject to more papers and speculation. Because the humans that govern the land where chimpanzees live was more amenable to researchers. Jane Goodall, in her seminal work that all but established the whole concept of primatology, she was only able to do all that as a grad student, as a 20-something, just the bright idea to go to Zambia to study the chimpanzees, because she's British. She was a British citizen, and Zambia was at the time a British colony. And because she was already established doing her research and had a positive, reputation and positive relationships with people in the area, when Zambia got its independence, they just let her keep doing it. The entire extent of bonobos' range is contained entirely within the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Social and political situation there can be best described. The US Department of State's travel advice for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is simply, don't. Not exactly an unbiased source, but also, I'm not about to challenge their conclusions on this. We don't know as much about bonobos because few people have had the opportunity to study them. And side note here, because so much of the science in primatology, specifically like where they travel to, where the habitats are, they are largely scientists from the global north. That's not because people in Africa aren't curious about and interested in primates. It's because it takes a lot of stability, money, and resources to do science. It's not a poor man's game. We just have so much left to learn about bonobos before we can definitively make any kind of conclusions about what we have in common with all our closest living relatives and what we get from our common ancestor and what's something else they got going on. Sum up everything we've learned from grass thongs till now. What is logical and obvious from one perspective is unthinkable from another.
Why does Ross, the largest friend, not simply eat the other 5?
Now for a hyperventilation-inducing list of the other animal facts that I have rattling around in my head that are tangentially relevant to this topic and just make animals so relatable. Orcas in the 1980s used to kill salmon and then put their dead carcasses on their head like a little hat. Alaskan moose deliberately eat fermented fruit to get drunk just for fun. Crows have regional accents. Wallabies hang out in a field and get stoned together by nibbling on poppies. Cows have best friends. And lemurs make medicine. Like, for real. Lemurs will make an ointment. They'll chew up certain caterpillars and they'll like mush them in their mouth and they'll make a paste and then they'll put that paste on their body. And those bug guts contain a form of quinine, which is both like a mosquito repellent and a known anti-malarial. Holy shit, lemurs! If you'd like to learn more about primates, I suggest that you check out the channel Gutsick Gibbon. Unlike me, she is a real scientist, and better yet, a primatologist in particular. I've linked my favorite of her videos in the further learning playlist down below. There's also some documentaries and related stuff, some videos of Kanzi. And to these kind and generous dorks, your support blows my mind. It's baffling, awe-inspiring, and I am so tremendously grateful. This is so nice of you. Thank you a lot. For those of you who support at any tier here or on Ko-Fi, and you haven't received zine issue number 1 yet, I'm sorry about that. I'm making my way through the mail list, I promise. Please continue to be patient. I'm very grateful for that too. I still have a normie day job. I'm recording this at 12:30 a.m. Oh, and don't forget to pack a tool belt for your next bonobo handshake with one of the fine products from Balesa. The link is where you think. Bye!